Andrew Bridgen joins us, Conservative MP for North West Leicestershire. Thank you very much for joining us, Andrew. I think I just wanted to get your reaction initially anyway to Boris Johnson in Parliament yesterday. I thought he took a bit of a kicking, to be honest with you. There were certain areas that he really let himself down. I thought it emerged that he'd not even tried, for example, to form any kind of coalition whatsoever to bridge the Americans' military gap. What did you make of what happened in Parliament yesterday?
Well, I think it was the realisation of our position in the world, the Americans' political position in the world, and it wasn't where Parliament really wanted to be. I think it was a harsh brush with reality. The fact is that I think it's a bad policy and it's being implemented badly. It's not in the interests of the UK or Afghanistan or the Western world. But Biden's made his decision. We're on his coattails. And it was that feeling of impotence. There was a lot of debate in the chamber, a lot of hand-wringing, but we're not in a position politically or militarily to act unilaterally.
And so what do we do now? Because, as you say, there's not many options, and we do have to, of course, follow America's lead in this respect. What should we be doing now? And that offer of 20,000 places for refugees, do you think that's enough?
Well, I think what we've seen is Trump's position of America first, which is, I think, reasonable. Why not? But what I think that's moved on to now is Biden's position of America only. What I'm hearing is that the moment the Americans have got who they want out of Kabul, they'll be pulling their troops out. That's unacceptable. We went into Afghanistan 20 years ago as a coalition, and we went in together, and we should all be coming out together. And if that means there are other nationals in there that need to be rescued, the American troops should stay, or we're going to have to put more troops in ourselves to secure the airport. These are very, very difficult decisions. Ideally, we should have stayed in there as part of a coalition with a minimal force to keep the regime in position and keep the Taliban under control. This has opened a door to lots and lots of bad things that are going to happen, and we're sending terrible messages out to the rest of the world. This is going to embolden Putin's Russia. They're now going to see the American as more isolationist. They're going to push the limits. They think the bar's been raised of what they can get away with. And you've already seen what the Chinese Communist Party have put out about Taiwan. A message in their media, when the war starts in the Straits of Taiwan, don't expect the Americans to come and help you. The world's become a much more dangerous place, and we have to live as a Conservative in the world the way it is, not the way we'd like it to be.
Do you think Joe Biden should be considering his position at the moment?
Well, the Americans, I think the American public will be considering the decision they made of putting him into the White House. I think you're going to see his popularity falling. And I think the situation in Afghanistan and the airport at Kabul is going to deteriorate very quickly over the next few weeks. It could take many weeks to get all the people, many weeks for all the people we should be getting out of Kabul. I don't think that the Taliban are going to maintain this mirage of civilization long enough for us to get those people out. They're going to stop the Afghans who are eligible to leave from getting to the airport. They control the outside of the airport.
And this is it. And when we say, OK, well, look, we'll take 20,000 staggered over 5 years, well, all of a sudden we've got a bit of an issue, haven't we? Because if you happen to be an Afghan interpreter and you now have to go into hiding, how do we come and get you in 4 years' time? How do we find out where you are? And so, you know, this idea that we're going to even take potentially 20,000 people over 5 years, I'm not sure that's true to begin with, is it?
I don't think so either, and I'm not sure we're going to get the right 20,000. No. And, of course, because of this and the publicity around it, everyone coming into the UK illegally now will come in without papers and claim to be from Afghanistan.
Yeah, it's true. And that's something that we're going to see, no doubt. A point that we spoke about a bit yesterday was that, look, if we have a duty, and I suppose it's where people email in, by the way, you know, gbviews@gbnews.uk. There's a mixed bag so far, it's fair to say, in our inbox. We'll go to the email shortly. But it's that question of whether or not we do have a duty, I suppose. I personally do come down on the side that I think we do have a duty to these people. How much of a duty, I think, is the following question. But, you know, as far as you're concerned, you know, should we be going more than 20,000? Where do they all live is the other issue, isn't it? Because, you know, we have got stretched resources. Is it now the time to actually be tough in the channel and focus on the Afghans instead, you know?
Well, I think we need to do all those things, but also I think we need to have a crackdown on the reports that Ashraf Ghani, the former president of Afghanistan, has left the country with reportedly $169 million in cash. That money belongs to the Afghan people. the international community should hunt him down, get that money, and that should be channeled through NGO charities to aid people on the ground in Afghanistan. That's where that money belongs, and he needs to be made an example of.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I don't even know how you've managed to transport £160 million in cash. I mean, that itself is arguably the most impressive element of that. He's managed to actually get away with 160 million quid, which of course he denies. However, there may well be some truth in it. Just in terms of what happens now, are you concerned, as indeed I am, that we start to consider the Taliban to be an actual government? One of the things that people were saying to me outside Parliament yesterday was the Afghan flag now is being taken down. The only flag allowed to fly in Afghanistan is the flag of the Taliban, which is this white flag, etc. And so that's the problem. Are we going to end up seeing people on the world stage now accepting that the Taliban is a legitimate government, as opposed to actually saying...
Well, I've heard reports that 3 Afghan men took down the Taliban flag and put the Afghan flag back up, and they were shot yesterday. There's no way that we can accept at this point that the Taliban is a legitimate government. They've seized power by force. What we need to do, though, is try and keep them on board until we've got the foreign nationals and those vulnerable in Afghanistan out. I think that's probably an ask too far. I, like you, have heard their spokesman's hollow words and their reassurances that it's going to be different this time. I don't believe it is going to be. I think once the world focus has moved away, it's going to be back to the bad old medieval system of the Taliban and the suppression of, 19 million women and girls?
Oh, yeah, well, it's ridiculous, isn't it? It's ridiculous. And look, I think questions are rightly so. I mean, I did quite a big intro on this about the calibre of Boris Johnson's leadership in relation to this. Now, I understand that his hands were tied to an extent by Joe Biden's decision, don't get me wrong, but the optics of this are awful. Whilst people were clinging to the underneath of a plane and indeed falling off it, Boris Johnson and Dominic Raab were potentially wondering where they were going to go on their holiday. Dominic Raab apparently was on holiday. It's not a good look. At the very best, it's an abject failure, surely, of our intelligence services. At the very worst, it's just a fundamental lack of care. Which one is it, do you think?
Well, we need to look at what the intelligence data was, and it's also may not be just the data. The data may have been there. It's the interpretation of the data. And what worries me is these are the same intelligence services that we're relying to tell us where the virus, the COVID-19 virus, came from, and whether it was released from the lab deliberately or by accident.
Yeah.
This is very important issues, and we need to get to the bottom of it.